For some of you may remember, as Christy said, in 2021, I gave a speech called All Gloved Up, which somehow managed to win first place. But the reason for that the speech even existed was because my life was in crisis, because my husband's life was in crisis. He had a fatal blood disorder. The reason I got through the crisis is because of this woman sitting right here, with whom I have a good rapport, my best friend from Cincinnati. But to sum up that speech very quickly so that we can talk to our featured guests today, what happened was my husband, with his rare blood disorder, had a pleural catheter inserted to drain some liquid from his lungs. It became very apparent after the surgery was over that something was horribly wrong. In retrospect, his lungs were, we have 99% proof, punctured. He was hovering near death, in great pain. I was in the room with him. He was wheeled out of the room. I said to the head nurse, "Where are you taking him? What is going on?" She was panicking, the nurse. She said, "Everything's okay, Mrs. Simmerlink. We're just taking him to the ICU to settle him down a bit." And I said, well, when will I see him? And she said, "Oh, in a few minutes. We're just going to settle him down." I thought, okay, I can handle that. A few minutes, no problem. I went to the ICU waiting room. In the meantime, texted, called as many friends as possible. My son, who lived in Ann Arbor, managed to arrive in Cincinnati in about 3 hours and 15 minutes, which is a little bit too fast. A variety of people came and prayed, but then they had to leave. The hours just ticked by. Karen Strasser was here, and another friend named Karen who lived down the street were there. It was just us pacing, praying, no medical update. Absolutely no one came out to tell me how he was doing. Every time a nurse or doctor would walk out of those ICU doors, there were these big swinging wooden doors. I would desperately, I was just the picture of desperation, say, "My husband's in there. His name is Dan Summerlin. Can you talk to the head nurse? I need to know how he's doing." And they would just, "Sorry, we don't know anything." Finally, it was about 11:30 p.m. and I had kept saying, "Why can't I get an update?" Now, Karen was there. She tends to add comic relief to very tragic situations. She likes to pace, and she was cracking a few jokes whenever she could. She just happened to be wearing blue sweatpants that evening, royal blue sweatpants, and an actual scrub shirt that a doctor had given her. As she's walking around, she noticed a sterile glove dispenser next to the ICU doors, and she started to take them out, try them on. And of course, my other friend, Karen, I said, "What are you doing? Sit down." She said, "Ah, sterile gloves. Ooh, I'm all gloved up. I'm ready for surgery, guys. Hey, I'm ready for surgery." And we got this feeling that she was going to do something. And we both said, "Sit down, just sit down. Just whatever you're thinking of, don't do it." She goes, "I'm ready. I'm all gloved up. I'm all gloved up. You say you want to know how your husband's doing?" And she burst through the ICU doors, these swinging ICU doors, where I saw the head nurse sitting there. And Karen said, oh, she had her hair in a clippy. She looked like, she had just gotten out of surgery. She said, "Ladies, I need the stats on Dan Simmerlink. Which room is he in?" And I thought, and the other Karen and I were laughing to the point of, peeing our pants. I was horrified, entertained at the same time. About 5 minutes later, for the first time that entire evening, a nurse came out with a very serious look on her face. She said, "Mrs. Simmerlink, we're taking you back to see your husband right now. Follow me. He's in room 12B. I thought, results through being an imposter. This is good. But what I never really asked Karen, because there was so many, one crisis after the other, is where did she get the nerve to impersonate a surgeon, to put her reputation at risk? I can't believe the hospital never followed through with it or asked, "Where's your badge? Excuse me, what's your name, Doctor Who?" Karen, can you come up here and tell us where you got the nerve to do this?
In first grade, the teacher would always say, "Kids, think before you act." Well, one of my problems is that I don't think before I act necessarily. I also speak while I'm thinking. So that's not good. I'm not one to pause and think about a situation. I just go forward. So in that moment where I was all gloved up, and by the way, there's quite a technique to bust through those doors to maintain the sterile field. And the reason why I know about the sterile field and the reason why I know how to hit those big double doors with my lower arms is because I've watched General Hospital for 50 years. And I didn't think before I act. I hope nobody would ever ask me this question. Why did you do it? And I was desperate. I was desperate for my best friend. I was desperate for Dan. I was desperate because we had waited for hours and I knew it was bad. I knew it was bad and we had to know what was going on. As much as, I guess I can stop doing this right now. As much as they say that an important part of being a good public speaker is knowing what to do with your hands. So I'm like, hi, George. Hi, thank you for being here. I was desperate and I needed answers. And once I got back there, I need a status report immediately on my patient, Dan Summerlin. I thought, what the hell am I doing? But I knew to maintain my serious face, my surgeon's, composure. And by God, we got answers. And Ann was meeting with the head nurse 5 minutes later. And boy, my heart was pounding so hard during this. I was pretty sure the front desk back in ICU could see my shirt, my heart beating through at my shirt like this. It was scary. But at the same time, I must say it was a very rewarding and empowering experience. Thank you. Yes.
She was on call 24/7 she was on call 24/7 to help our family. You really couldn't have been getting much sleep at this point.
Well, I had a plan for that I didn't think about. I didn't think it out very clearly. At the Antichrist Hospital, that's what we came to finally call it. Because they couldn't do anything right. When this procedure that she's talking about happened, it was an otherwise, it wasn't a heart transplant. Let's just put it that way. And they were reassuring us that nothing would go wrong. Well, we're just like, are you kidding us? Everything goes wrong here at the Antichrist. They can't even put a port in right. Okay. So I decided to sleep in my van very frequently on the rooftop of the Antichrist Hospital. And there were a couple reasons for that. Ann was alone. Family is out of town. If things went really bad, she needed somebody to be there at his bedside with her immediately, not in 20 minutes. And I wanted to be able to be that person that could go and, put my arm around her and say, it's okay. So I slept on the roof of the hospital. It was exactly 3 minutes from the roof to get to the ICU. It was also, interestingly enough, the only way that I knew how to find the ICU at this big hospital, by accessing that rooftop door, going down the hall, taking elevator A to floor 4, then getting on elevator B and going to floor 7, then getting on elevator C and going to floor 9. Bam, ICU.
Oh, we're not finished with you yet, Karen.
Oh, no.
May I quickly introduce, do you mind, the social worker episode? There were many episodes to my husband's illness. Can
We
go over
should
that
write
real
a book,
quickly?
that.
You should. We had made an appointment at Mayo Clinic for my husband to be seen, but Mayo said, before you come out here, you need to bring his bone marrow biopsy results. I had called the doctor. He had an oncologist at another hospital, Jewish hospital, to no avail. They have no one that really, they had an answering service. So you could never really talk to anyone from the department. I could not get those bone marrow biopsy results. And I thought maybe I could, though, if I could ask Karen to impersonate a social worker, she could go with me and maybe we could get something done. So I called her up one day. I said, Karen, can you do me a favor? She said, yeah, anything for you, anything for you. I said, can you impersonate a social worker? She said, yeah, when? Just tell me where, when, tell me when to show up. I said, I need you to show up tomorrow morning at Jewish Hospital at 10 a.m. I'm going to meet with those people. I'm going to the desk and I'm demanding that they give me those bone marrow biopsy results. But I don't want you to lie. You cannot lie. Just give the impression that you're a social worker. And she said, sure, I can do it. No problem. And I said, what are you going to wear? She said, don't worry, I'll just see you at 10 o'clock. 10 a.m. the next day, I'm nervously waiting for Karen to come through the door. Who knows what she'll do? She shows up with a blue, very boring shirt, a jean skirt, flip-flops, her hair up in a clippy.
I was not wearing flip-flops.
Okay, or sandals. Her glasses perched on her nose, a clipboard, and an oversized handbag. And I said, what do we do? She said, don't do anything, just follow me. We walked up to the front desk, and there's the nurse who just had a little slightly weary look on her face the minute she'd laid eyes on her. And Karen said, hi, my name is Karen Strasser, and I've been working with Ann Amert. And we are trying to obtain her husband's bone marrow biopsy results. I'm wondering if you could help us today. I know I got to wrap this up. And they said, no, I'm sorry. We've got a patient full of room full of patients. I'm sorry, we can't help you. And she said, that's okay. I'll come back in 30 minutes. And if you haven't obtained those bone marrow biopsy results, I'm going to talk a little bit louder. Then I'll wait another 30 minutes. And then for every half hour that you have not obtained those results, I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk very loud. And I'm going to talk so loud that the entire room will hear me screaming, if you don't get those bone marrow biopsy results. And I'm telling you, they got those bone marrow biopsy results. We are finished. Unfortunately, Karen is available for questioning after the speech, interrogation, whatever you want to call it. Thank you so much, fellow Toastmasters.
Thank you.